A couple of days later in the early evening at my apartment. Why is my apartment capitalized? It took a little while to file the necessary paperwork with the agency for the undercover mission. Apparently, the agency requires just as many records as the police department, but the day has finally arrived. My bedroom is washed in shadow as evening begins to fall. Dusk fades into night outside my window as I stare through the panes of glass. Swaths of rich, inky blue coat the sky where there had been, just a few moments ago, a palette of vibrant pinks and oranges. I shiver at the cold colors of the oncoming night, but the warmth inside my apartment seeps in through my clothing and wraps around me. With darkness almost fully setting in, I make to turn away but pause when a new light bursts to life. At the very edge of town, small glints of fluorescent colors begin to spark and flash, like flames against the shadow of the trees. The carnival has awoken. God damn it, go away. With the thought of our upcoming mission still whirling around like a roller coaster in my mind, I head back into the living room where Rebecca is moving things around to make space for the equipment Unit Bravo is bringing with them. Are you all ready? She asks, not turning to look at me as she gently takes all the comfy cushions from the sofa and places them with care to one side. Hmm. Yes, I say in simple and certain reply. She turns to face me, looks over my expression, and then gives a satisfied nod. Good. A small strain of tension strangles the word, but she returns to her task to cover it. I make to help clear the area in preparation. Is Unit Bravo on their way? Yes, they'll be here soon with the surveillance equipment, she replies. Staring over my living room, the space now emptied out, I frown. Just how much stuff are they bringing? Enough that I can be at least sure we have you well covered if anything goes wrong. She brushes down the one wrinkle which dared to mess up her tailored suit jacket. I was surprised Unit Bravo was so eager to let you join the mission. I arch a brow. They were? Considering the way they reacted to me getting involved with Murphy, well, the news comes as somewhat of a surprise. Well, she says, drawing out the word. Morgan wasn't quite as amenable as the others, but she assumed you'd be part of the mission, even if it didn't seem to be to her liking. As she moves towards the window, apparently searching for the team's arrival, a thought crosses my mind. It had found its way into my consciousness a couple of days ago, a thought stirred up like ghosts from a grave. I flick my gaze to my mother. Did my father know about all of this? For a moment, Rebecca goes so stiff I think she might topple over. It's not a surprising reaction. She never talks about him. Ever. With slow care, she turns to face me. Her skin has grayed and her eyes are wide with surprise. Her hands grip at the hem of her jacket so hard the fabric stretches in her grasp. I don't think she's going to reply at all after a few silent seconds go by. Then her gaze plummets to the floor and her whole body slumps suddenly into the armchair nearby. Hmm. Let's go with that. I brace myself against the sight of the usually assured woman crumbling before me. You must have known I'd ask eventually. She takes a breath. Actually, I didn't. I frowned at the reply. So, did he? Yes, she says and looks over at me. He did. Why didn't you tell me? The question tumbles from my mouth as though I'd been waiting a lifetime to say it. She stares into her lap. Honestly, I hadn't even thought of it. There's much you have yet to learn, and a lot I have to remember to tell you. Okay. Hmm. Sure, let's go with that. Nice to know there's still plenty of surprises in store for me, then, I reply in a lighter tone. She stands from the chair in a graceful move, her composure back in place. Yes, there will be, but this is something you should know about. It's just talking about your father. Her voice strangles in her throat. It's difficult. I nod in reply, unsure what to say to yet another emotional moment from her. A small smile then haunts her lips. She reaches a slender hand up to cup my cheek. The affectionate gesture seems so out of character and yet so caring in that moment. Sure, go on. Her hand falls softly on my cheek, her skin cold and her fingers shaking. You have his eyes, you know. Exactly like them, such a delicate blue. She snaps her hand back and spins away. Though it seems you inherited my stoicism, he was certainly the more personable one of us. She chuckles after that. This is the most she's ever talked about him, and I'm unsure whether I want to stop her or not. And now you're following in his footsteps far more than I would like. I frown at her. What do you mean? She seems to brace herself before continuing, reminding me of the mast of a ship against a storm. She clasps her hands in front of her. He was the human liaison to the agency for Wayhaven too. What? I barely manage to utter the word, my breath feeling like it's been punched out of my lungs. There's no more reply from her except the slight twitch of a frown. I blink rapidly, thoughts flickering in front of my eyes and inside my mind with the speed of lightning flashes. Wait, so what happened to him? I stare at her. That gang? Yes, she says with a nod, obviously knowing where I'm going. It was to do with our line of work. Do you understand now why I'm so worried about you being in this world? She steps closer and reaches out once again. Jules, I couldn't bear to lose you too. Rash. Rebecca and I both swing around to face the doorway. Ah, crap. Bra calls, having half crashed through my front door. It swings a little loosely on the hinges and then bangs back into her shoulder. Ouch. Did you break it? Nat asks, a sigh hanging in the words. Nice to see your concern is for the apartment rather than your friend. Bra gives the wood frame a quick glance over. Seems solid. Well, unless a group of frowls bashes through it again, I suppose. Nat finally lets out her sigh and Farah chuckles. Rebecca makes to move towards Unit Bravo as they shuffle and struggle to enter the room, boxes of equipment piled in their arms. Go on. I can pretty much imagine what happened. I don't need to know. She moves past me, her professional mask now fully set back in place, and greets the group. I move to follow a few moments after. Is this everything? Rebecca asks as Ava places down three large, black, sturdy looking boxes. Ava nods. We brought it all. Bra flops onto my sofa and lets out a sharp breath. Yeah, and there was tons of it. We should have asked our detective here for a lift. Think we would have got all this into that beat up tin can of theirs? Morgan asks with a scoff, spreading out her arms to gesture over the heaps of boxes. She then glances at me with a shrug. No offense or anything. Hmm. Sure. At least it can run at full power in the day. I begin, my lips opening into a grin. No offense. Ooh, Farah lets out a yell. Detective, that was beautiful. Just superb. She places her pinched fingers to her lips and gives a kiss as though the retort needs savoring. I mean, it just as well goes for her too. Morgan stares at me in what can only be disbelief mixed with genuine surprise. After a while, she gives a scoff, but the hint of an impressed smile tugs at the corner of her lips. Can we please get on with the task at hand? Ava orders, despite phrasing it as a question. We all move towards the boxes to help. The equipment is mostly set up on my coffee table, with thin monitors, speakers, and odd looking text spilling onto the floor once all the space on the surface is filled. Let's go over the mission plan, Rebecca says as she settles down on the sofa to begin turning on the equipment. It leaps to life. Jules will be going on this mission due to their ability to block out mind altering abilities. It may prove useful in unknown supernatural situations. And we assumed as detective of this town, you would want to be directly involved. Nat smiles at me. One of us will be going with you as backup, Ava adds, just in case, but two will be plenty for merely scoping out the territory. We don't want to draw attention with the whole group of you going, Rebecca says, still typing away on the keyboard in front of her. From this quick scan we managed, there's definitely a supernatural essence to the carnival, though that could just be from the increase of supernaturals in Wayhaven. She brings up an aerial map on the monitor, though it's mostly just blobs of color. Thankfully, I know Wayhaven well enough to recognize it even in this blurry state. Ava points a finger to a large area of bright purple that bleeds out into violet. It looks most concentrated here. What area is that? The House of Mirrors, Rebecca replies. Awesome. Farad chimes, shoving her way forward to stare at the screen. Do we get to go in it? We'll have to wait. We'll have to if we want to figure out what this is, I reply. And it's going to be much harder in a place like that. Rebecca stands from the sofa and turns to the group. Bra, you'll accompany Jules on this mission. You're the best at searching things out, and that'll be useful in a place as crowded as the carnival. Bra places a hand to her chest and gasps. Was that a compliment? Keep up that sarcasm and you'll not be going at all, Rebecca replies as though having long ago gotten used to her snark. Sorry, madam, Farah says, but not before throwing me a wink. She hands us earpieces as well as tiny agency radios, which I recognize from when I used one on patrol with Unit Bravo all those months ago. Farah also gets a minuscule camera. You'll need to press the radio in order for us to hear you, she explains. What cover story would be best? Ava asks. A couple on a date. Farah says so fast it comes out almost as one word, and she drops the camera she was pinning to her coat hem. Ava lifts her brow. A date? It's an easy cover. People always go on dates to carnivals. I've seen the movies. We'll blend right in. Her eyes flash with excitement as she smiles at me. Hmm. Right, sure. I give a nod of agreement to the plan. Excellent, Farah says. This is a mission, Ava reminds us. Stick to it and don't get distracted. Her attention falls heavily on Farah when she says this. Farah pats her on the arm. Lighten up, Ava. You know I always get the job done. Let them have a little fun, Nat says in a gentle tone. We'll be only a dash away if anything goes wrong. Ava untenses at Nat's words, if only a little. You'll miss it if you stand around here any longer. Morgan quips. I'm not sure if that's her way of showing concern, but her voice is at least a lot gentler than normal. I glance at Farah, who is practically bouncing on the spot in eagerness, and so we both turn to head out of the apartment. In the car, on the way to the carnival. It's not far to Holly's Peak, where the carnival has set up, but we opt to take the car, considering the fading light and the slightly terrifying possibility of a supernatural prowling about. The streets are mostly empty as we go, most people either at the carnival or at home. The quiet evening doesn't help with boosting my confidence much. Thankfully, I can always rely on Farah to fill the silent void. I could help you drive if you like, Farah suggests with just a hint of a flirtatious smile playing at the corner of her lips. I chuckle. How exactly are you planning to do that? I don't know, she replies. Her hand slides from her lap to run over the buttons on the dashboard. Maybe rubbing over your dials? The smile turns into an enormous playful grin, her eyes shimmering in the gloom. What are you insinuating? Um, hmm. Thanks for the offer, I reply with a wink, but I think my dials are just fine as they are. Well, I hope you'll think of me if they ever need tuning up. She pouts for a second. Nah, that innuendo didn't really work. No. I smile over at her. It's the thought that counts. I hope so, Farrar replies, because I think of you a lot. The car shudders a little as my foot slips off the pedal at that admission. My body flares with heat that I can't cool off. But I guess I'll sit here and be quiet for now, she says while leaning closer. Her breath dancing over my skin doesn't exactly help me focus on the road. We're on duty and all. The sitting back and being quiet lasts for about 20 seconds before Farah starts chatting again. She asks about the town as we drive past public buildings and spaces, and I do my best to fill her in. We arrive at Hollow's Peak a few minutes later, parking the car where everyone else has gathered. Then we follow the crowds through the tree-lined carnival itself. At the carnival. White painted metal bars ring the entirety of the carnival. The only entrance is through a large archway that funnels everyone inside the fence, with a sign that exclaims Carnival emblazoned in yellow on the top. We join the queue of people waiting to get through. A few of them throw smiles in my direction, then take one look at Farah standing right next to me, and instantly start whispering to their friends. Farah smiles. Looks like we'll be the focus of tomorrow's gossip. From the way the whispers are spreading through the queue, I can't help but agree. As we approach the ticket booth, I can see a little further into the sea of color beyond the gate. The carnival lights help to highlight everything ahead. Yeah, I need to be on my guard. 2 tickets for you, the seller asks as we reach the booth. It's draped in green velvet curtains, and the seller is dressed in a boldly striped jacket with a matching hat. Very fitting for the scene. Yeah, I reply with a nod. Thanks. As I move my jacket aside to grab some money, the seller's eyes flash to my badge. Oh, you're the detective here? The seller slides 2 tickets towards me. This is on the house for you. Um, hmm. Sure. A smile almost sets on my lips, and instead I give the seller a wink. I don't take bribes, you know. And I'd never offer any, detective, the seller replies. As they do, they give a smile, and there seem to be a few too many teeth in that grin. Which means free tickets. Farah chimes in, reaching to take them. Thanks. You're most welcome, the seller says. You both have a good evening. I give a nod of farewell, and then we head into the actual carnival, with Farah looking very pleased at the start of the evening. Tents and stalls act like fences, blocking our view of anything further than 20 feet away. Children speed past us and are suddenly lost within the weaving alleyways created by the stalls. The only thing visible at the far end of the carnival is the Ferris wheel, which twinkles with vibrant lights in the dark. The carriages sway in a hypnotizing dance while they swing up towards the night sky. A pink hue taints the entire carnival, staining everyone with fluorescent color. The pink is only broken by flashes of blue, yellow, and green from the strip lights tied to the poles of the stalls that barricade us in. It's far too warm considering the time of year. My skin bristles with heat beneath my coat, and I wonder how they've managed to steal the chill from the early spring evening. Pink and white striped booths are blindingly bright with signs advertising popcorn surrounded by bags of cotton candy in a selection of colors. I don't even need to buy a bag to taste the sickly sweetness which permeates the air around us. It's like we're walking through the plumes of cotton candy, my mind already as soft as the sugary treat which seems to be in the hands of every patron. Oh, that's how they get the illness around. It's the cotton candy. The scent is not the only thing hanging in the air. It's also thick with a melodic, haunting organ tune mixed with chatter and whispers. The sound is overwhelming, as if it had taken on physical form and is smothering me. The forced cheeriness of the smiles we receive from the stall owners and carnival workers only adds to the sensation. I glance down at Farah. Her eyes are as round as the Ferris wheel, and her jaw is slack as she stares around in awe. She's obviously enjoying this far more than I am. I chuckle at her amazed expression. You look like you've never been to a carnival before. I haven't, she replies. Not an unexpected answer, but it still makes my chest tug a little. How much of this world have you actually managed to experience? Not much, Farah replies, blinking out of her reverie to look at me. But I've never had someone I've wanted to experience it with before. My breath stutters as her amber gaze locks into my own. Our conversation is broken by Nat's voice coming through our earpieces. How is it? Are you able to tell what we're dealing with yet? She asks. Must be difficult to get a good view with Farah's jacket mostly obscuring the camera. Farah presses the radio on her coat collar. We only just got here. You expecting us to have taken the place down by now? Sorry, she says. I just don't like you two being alone without us close by. Farah smiles at me. I do. We can't make your purpose there too obvious. It's Rebecca who speaks through the earpiece this time. You'll have to blend in for a while. Try out some of the attractions before heading to the House of Mirrors. Engaging in 2 attractions should be enough to allay anyone's suspicions. And we're supposed to be a couple, Farah says to me with unhidden joy in her tone, so we better make it believable. Be careful, Ava orders. Yes, ma'am, Farah quips. There's a growl of response from the other end. Farah turns to me with a bounce of excitement. You chose where we go. Decision making isn't my thing. What is a sideshow? I don't really know. We'll go to the carousel. What about the carousel? Oh, Farah exclaims, swinging around to face where the carousel is. It's a carnival classic, right? I nod. Yep. Then what are we waiting for? She beams brightly. Sure. Without missing a beat, she slips her arm around mine and draws close to my side. Then, with a giant smile, she heads off for the carousel with me in tow. My own expression bright with a grin. As we approach, the huge carousel slows its spinning. Where I expected to see horses, there are instead a variety of highly detailed carved creatures. Griffins, dragons, roosters, and an array of fantasy creatures whose names I'm not even sure of. The shadow of the night is washed away by a flood of colorful light pouring off the roof of the carousel. It seems to tempt us closer until we're standing in the warmth of its vibrancy. Vines and flowers are painted over every inch of space in the carousel structure. There are no children on this ride, but that's unsurprising with the sheer size of the animals. After showing our tickets to the vendor, who is dressed in a beautiful, almost Victorian looking gown, complete with bustle, Bra and I clamber up the steps, circling the entire carousel, and move towards a place to sit. Oh, yes! I hear Farah yell from ahead of me. I swing around to see her eyes wide with amazement as she stares at the beautifully painted dragon in front of her. I move closer. Yes, you found your steed. She's already flinging one leg over it to take her seat. What about you? You'll sit beside me, right? I do just that, taking a seat on the griffin that stands majestically beside Farah's dragon. A few moments later, the carousel bursts into life. Music winds around us, the lights twinkle above, and the animals begin to rise and fall as the carousel starts to move. The ride moves surprisingly fast, and I have to grip the gold colored, twisting metal pole that just juts out of the creature I'm on just to keep my balance. This is awesome, Bra calls to me. My heart stutters in my chest as I look at her. Genuine happiness makes her whole body seem to radiate, and she lets out a laugh as the dragon descends and then rises once again. I've never seen such pure joy. It's only then I realize how much I admire that about Farah. She never holds back in enjoying each moment to the fullest, and it seems to be infectious. With a laugh of my own, I watch as the carnival around us blends into little more than a blur of rainbow colors as we spin and dip. Hey, look, Farah says, and I look over to see her stretch out her arms and legs. She tips her head back to inhale a deep, happy breath. And she stays balanced, for a few seconds anyway, before the dragon begins to rise again. Then she wobbles precariously and topples to one side with a yelp. Brah! My hand shoots out to grab her jacket sleeve. Just in time, I manage to yank her upright. Thanks, she says with a laugh. Nice to know you've got me. There's no joking in those words, and her eyes glimmer as she gazes at me. Hmm. Sure. My mouth breaks into a smile. Of course I have. Because we're teammates? Farah asks with interest and a whole lot of subtext. I clear my throat. Sure, because we're teammates. Her fingers move to slide over my hand, which still rests on her arm. It's okay if there's another reason. I hope there is. My throat goes dry, and any reply I might have made seems lodged in my chest. I can barely even remember where we are as I gaze at her. The only music I hear is the beating pulse of my heart. The only thing I feel is the gentle caress of Farah's fingers on mine, and the only sight I see is the consuming way that Farah is gazing at me. Your mission, guys? Concentrate. The carousel may not be supernatural, but we sure seem to generate enough magic of our own. Farah draws back, her hand sliding away and leaving me with a knot of disappointment at the broken touch. And now, she says with her usual cheer, it's time we try out some tricks. She grins, eyes bright with mischief, as she goes to attempt to stand on the dragon she's riding. We're kicked off the carousel a few seconds later. Stuck ups, Bra mutters as we plod away from the carousel. I chuckle. Considering you almost fell off the thing, maybe it was a good call on their part. How can you have fun without a little risk? She replies with a wiggle of her brows. But there must be somewhere more fun than this. Where do you want to head next? I want to know what a sideshow is. How about a sideshow? I gesture over at a group of gathered stalls, each offering a different way to test your skills and win a prize. Bra's eyes fall on the giant stuffed animals and light up toys. Yes, definitely yes. I barely keep up pace as she takes off in that direction with a spring in her step. After we've been searching for a while, I'm still unsure what criteria Farah is using to pick a stall. She glances at each one for a moment before giving a shake of her head. It won't be long until we run out of sideshows. This looks cool, she says, finally drawing to a stop at a few large yellow painted wooden barrels. They're filled with water, and a group of crisp green apples bobs at the surface of each. I stare at it. Apple bobbing? That's right, an older man with a rather fabulous handlebar moustache calls. An underrated game, if you ask me. Only true connoisseurs stop here. I always like to root for the underdog, Fra adds with a smile, then turns to me. How about it? Sure, I reply. The rules are simple. No hands allowed, mouths only. Bite the apple and pull them out. The vendor explains while spreading his arms out. Get free apples and win a prize. The wall is lined with stuffed toys which all stare down at us through brightly colored plastic eyes. That doesn't seem to deter Farah, who doesn't wait to hear any more before pulling her hair back and completely dunking her face into the water. Bubbles spout where she lets out a breath to try grabbing an apple. I turn to one of the other barrels. Hmm. I focus on the barrel and the apples as they bounce on the surface of the water. but the distractions around me become too much and I can't concentrate. Solving problems on the fly isn't really my thing. After a moment, I realize I'm going to have to give up on figuring out the best apple and just take my chances. I plunge my face into the chill water. Oh my word, that's cold. It's all I can think as I splash about in the water, trying my hardest to bite into the apples which roll by. I'm unsuccessful every single time. Hauling myself back out of the barrel, I suck in a breath and shake away the water dripping onto my shoulders. Guess you did about as well as me, Farah says, looking just as soaking wet and just as bare of apples as I am. I chuckle. I guess so. You gave it a good go, though, the vendor says in encouragement. Sometimes it's just not your night. Farah looks over at me, eyes glittering. Oh, I think it's very much my night anyway. The flotation helps to ease some of the chill from the water. Here, the vendor says. I hate to see someone go home empty-handed. He turns to reach behind him and lifts a small plush toy from the rack. It's a small stuffed unicorn toy, complete with a glittery mane and rainbow horn. Mine. No, of course, we're giving it to Farah. I take the unicorn and instantly turn to Farah, handing it to her. Here. Are you serious? Her words are almost lost in the excited breath she lets out. Of course, I reply with a chuckle. She takes the toy as though it's more precious than anything in the world. Thank you. No one has ever given me something like this before. A toy? I ask with a joking smile. She looks at me. Yeah, a gift just for the sake of a gift. My heart seizes in my chest a little. I hope you like it. I love it, she replies with no joking or sarcasm at all. She clears her throat and hugs the toy close. Guess we'd better get heading somewhere else now, though. You choose. A voice comes through on the radio before we decide which amusement to choose. There is no need for any more, Rebecca informs us. You can head over to the House of Mirrors now. A shiver travels up my spine. Really? Not even one more thing? Farah moans. You're there for the mission, Farah, Ava reprimands. Farah rolls her head back to let out a sharp breath. Fine. Our focuses then shift to face the tent at the far end of the carnival. The entrance is covered and the material of the tent is covered in grey and white stripes. It's like the color has been bled out of it. Not a cheery thought. It certainly doesn't inspire excitement. Moving back into the crowd, we make it a few steps before a grinning figure steps into our path. You two look like a happy couple, the woman says cheerily. She holds up an old-fashioned, clunky-looking camera. How about a photo we can put on our wall of love? She gestures nearby where there is indeed a wall with photos of beaming couples and groups staring out of the pictures at us. Who's that? Ava asks through the earpiece. I'd forgotten they can't hear us until we click our radios on, and even if they can see things through the cameras. In as casual a motion as possible, I brush my collar back and click the radio. You want to take our picture? Yes, the woman replies with genuine enthusiasm. Her light brown hair has been curled into ringlets and pulled back to reveal her youthful face and bright blue eyes. She wears what looks like a ringmaster's outfit from a circus, and the gold detailing encrusted on her ornate jacket gleams in the lights. Ava grunts in annoyance. Well, we are a couple, Farah says in a bright voice, and this is exactly what couples would do. Do it quick, Rebecca says. Get her out of the way. The woman gives an enthusiastic nod at Farah's agreement. That's great! Now just cuddle up and give me a smile. We do, as she says, getting very close together. We turn to face the camera as the woman calls out to us. That's great, she says and shifts the camera in front of her. No, wait. Farah bursts out as she turns to me. You gotta smolder more. I raise a brow. Smolder? Yeah, like this. She gazes at the camera, giving an over-exaggerated pout and faux bedroom eyes. Even if she's only joking, quite a few of the people passing by almost melt into puddles as they notice her. Come on. No. I think I'll just pose as normal, I reply. Fine, Farah says with a heavy breath. But we still get to cuddle up as a couple, right? I chuckle and give a nod. Farah doesn't waste a moment before nestling up against me. Well, this is the most fun I've had all night. I break into a smile at that, unable to hold back the excitement shivering through me with the strength of a tidal wave. Perfect! The photographer cries, walking out around the camera. A photo prints from the bottom, a weirdly modern thing for a camera that looks so old. The antique frame must be a facade. I grip the photo as she passes it to me. Well, that's not so bad, I say, looking over the picture of the two of us gazing at each other. I'll say, look at your smile, Farah replies. That is so much sexier than any smolder. I glance over at her in surprise. Photographer slips the photo out of my grasp and interrupts the moment. Well, this will be on the wall of love if you ever want to take another look. Enjoy the rest of your visit. Thanks, I say. The woman moves away and ambushes another couple on their way through the carnival. Guess we best get back to it, Bra says with a lazy shrug. We head off in the direction of the House of Mirrors and, hopefully, an answer to the town's supernatural problem. Next chapter.